In today's episode, that's not a router, that's a hub. We're forking into wireless breathalyzers. Sure, let's get Wi-Fi to work through that nuke-proof blast door. Troubleshooting debit devices with the enemy. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. That's not a router, that's a hub. Not so long ago at my telco, I got a support call that brought back old memories. Bytewave, senior line, Bytewave, you may send me your ticket. Anthony, hey, this is Anthony. Sent. Customer has network sharing issues. 2 computers connected to his router, he can get the internet on either one, but then it stops working on the other. He says it's been like this forever, and usually he has to press repair. We support router issues. We support pretty much everything nowadays. A new VP decided a few years ago that if we never utter again the phrase "this isn't supported," the company would distinguish itself for superior customer service. Mostly that means more calls for me, because Frontline isn't actually trained to handle everything. I had to literally troubleshoot a smart toaster once. Bytewave, okay, look at the diagonal tool. Whatever is connected to our modem has no MAC address. Anthony, he said it's connected right now. Bytewave, if it is, it's not a router. Get me a brand and model? Hold music for almost 10 minutes somehow. Really, half my job is to listen to this, and it's slowly driving me insane. Still the same music as in 2001, and the track loops after like 22 seconds. I can hum it in my sleep. Anthony, Netgear EN104. Bytewave, that's not a router, that's a hub. And it's written on it. Obviously, what's happening here is that both computers are competing for a single IP address. With the current setup, there's no way both can be online. Anthony, what's a hub? Oh boy. He's in-house staff, there's just no excuse. Flagged for mandatory training. Bytewave, too long to get into details given we have a customer on hold. You'll have someone to give you a brief class on the differences between hubs, routers and switches within 48 hours. For now, suffice to say, connecting a hub to a cable modem configured to grant a single IP address will never give internet access to 2 computers unless you're using ICS and 2 NIC cards on the first. We don't recommend that setup. The most viable options are using a router instead, and we conveniently rent them real cheap if the customer wants, or to pay for a second IP address which is somehow substantially more expensive. Anthony, okay, so I rent him another router? Bytewave, a router, yes, what he has isn't one. Very few people use hubs to share their internet connection nowadays, and be thankful for that. When I was still Frontline, they were still much cheaper than routers, so many did, and the call you're taking now, I heard it 100 times back then. All of Bytewave's tales on TFTS. We're forking into wireless breathalyzers. As senior staff at my telco, I get to sit in class for everything we market several months ahead of schedule. This is the same class Frontline will eventually get, but I'm the one who'll have to answer their questions about it once it's live, so I always pay attention to details. This is from a few years back. Teacher, this new technology will be deployed in cars in need of a breathalyzer. The vast majority of people using it will be people who are court-ordered to do so. It's a relatively small market, but we picked it up because we could, and it was the right thing to do. The breathalyzer being connected to your cellular network, it's impossible to trick it in the usual ways, and every attempt is instantly reported back. Whether the car starts at all is determined by our systems, so there can be variable rules set in place for each customer. When warranted, the results can be instantly transferred to a parole officer or similar offices when the law mandates. Looks pretty neat, but we're sitting in a tidy classroom around a large oakwood table, and there's no car in sight. I've learned from experience to never trust the theory. Bytewave, I've been told the prototype is functional already. Senior staff would like to examine a working prototype on an actual car before we move out of TRT, Technology Readiness Test. I wouldn't say we're ready for BRT, Business Readiness Test, until we get a hands-on test. Greeted with much approval from my colleagues and a blank face from the teacher, who worked extensively on the project. But senior staff's okay is critical when it comes to deployment of new products, so she said it would happen. Fast forward a few weeks, a few floors below in our building's parking lot. Teacher, as you can see, the Prius we have here is hooked to the system, and though there might be a few kinks to iron out, it's fully functional. We went all out to demonstrate effectiveness. My colleague Mark here had 4 drinks of this bourbon over the last 2 hours. If you log on the web portal, you should see the results of the test being reported live to your future tools. Gotta love the notion that having 4 bourbons is a corporate sacrifice. I chuckled. Mark goes on to blow in the wireless breathalyzer, and the car fails to start as expected. Everybody looks at the results through our portal. The precise amount of alcohol in his breath is logged, and the failure is well reported in bold red within seconds. Technology seems to check out. Bytewave, this is pretty good. But I brought something that may shed some additional light on how the device may perform under stress, if I may. Time to drop the disguise. The moment she said whether the car starts at all is determined by our systems, so there can be variable rules set in place for each customer. I already wanted to do this. I'm in front of 20 senior staff and the 2 reps from the people developing this when I reach into my backpack and pull out a wireless signal jammer. We have some at work for testing purposes. Obviously, I have no idea how their contraption will react, but this is the kind of test that can save lives. It's worth it either way. I turn it on. Bytewave, Mark, if you could blow in again and try to start the car now? Lightly drunk Mark blows in the wireless breathalyzer. Car starts fine. Bytewave, I'm afraid we'll have to review the whole. We decide on our end if a car can start angle before senior staff gives the all clear for moving to business readiness tests. Lack of coverage is defaulting to a go. My colleagues burst out in laughter. Frank gets up and applauds frenetically. They did comply. By axing the feature. The decision on whether the car should start or not now works at a hardware level that requires no wireless. They cut back on one of their selling points because hey, too hard to make it work. Their system is now out in the field, and we provide all support for it. All of Bytewave's tails on TFTS. Sure, let's get Wi-Fi to work through that nuke-proof blast door. This comment reminded me I had to post this tale. When I'm not working from home, my office is in a tall skyscraper. Underneath it is a parking lot. Underneath that is a core head-end that's supposed to be able to survive a direct nuclear strike built to specs in the 80s, based on what the government thought would most likely be lobbed our way in case of an all-out Soviet first strike. Few years ago, we were in technology readiness tests for Wi-Fi repeaters. The end goal was to ensure that every customer who brought or rented one of our routers would have perfect coverage in their entire homes, no matter how vast. It's another money-losing gimmick that upper management really wanted us to push. Orders come down from the office of the president to road tech's manglement. As a test, they're supposed to get those to work in multiple locations, including some head-ends where this would be most challenging. But mine is behind feet of concrete and heavy metal doors, made out of some obscure alloy supposed to survive Soviet nukes. No Wi-Fi will ever get through. Bytewave, senior line, Bytewave, you may send. Road manglement, patching you to our most senior road tech, input required. Apparently something can't be done. I'm told you're the department to call when this happens. Well, I'm a tiny bit vain, and he stroked the right buttons. Let's make miracles happen. As he explains the situation, my first answer is well, you're pretty kid, but it's not your fault. There's 0 ways to get a repeater to work past blast doors. But then again, it's a core head-end, the entire region works only because of this. Blastproof or not, there's connectivity. Bytewave. So, the real goal of the exercise is to demonstrate the ability of the repeaters themselves, or your department's ability to get a signal in tough to reach locations. Senior road tech, in theory, who knows, but really the latter. My boss made that very clear. Unlike pretty much everything else about this thing. Bytewave, yeah, you were right when you told your boss to call us to back up the fact it can't be done. It can't. But I might have an idea to impress the wide ties. Union slang for upper management, fiber optics are going in and out of this head end, no matter how much concrete was poured. I don't know where, but you do. There's always an entry and an exit. Have the repeaters get to the entry point, go through the existing wiring, and then on the other side, set up the repeaters to give total coverage generously, assuming you need more than one in there. Senior road tech, well, that's obvious cheating, they'll figure it out in no time. Bytewave, really, you worked for the same union I do for decades, and you still think they'll figure it out? The only thing to figure out is the fact they handed down an assignment that's physically impossible. Now you can skirt the rules or just say I confirmed it's indeed impossible. Either way, I got no skin in this particular crazy game beyond this ticket I already closed. Senior road tech. Why not give it a try? From what I gathered, they really want Wi-Fi to get into this bunker. And so it happens, the bunker's hard structure is circumvented, and they get Wi-Fi coverage in there. It goes down to the entry point, then the well-protected fiber optics deep in concrete, then Wi-Fi again. Totally cheating, but there's Wi-Fi coverage everywhere, right? Weeks later, I'm CC'd on an email from the Secretary of the President thanking everyone for great work, and saying the repeaters are moving to business readiness. Yeah, totally a cheat. But when you're given insane directions, you do what you can. To this day, the office of the president still thinks we got repeaters working through blast doors. Troubleshooting debit devices with the enemy. When I started working at my telco long ago, I was told I would only be troubleshooting internet connections. Nowadays I offer senior support for everything. Recently we covered breathalyzers, today we're talking debit devices in convenience stores. Boss, Bytewave, could you look at this? A written complaint was filed. Apparently a debit device has not been working for weeks in an independent convenience store. Bytewave, wait, what? Boss, I know, but it runs through our lines or something. And they had their stuff tested independently. Definitely outside my usual scope. But being able to Google stuff is half the prerequisites of the job. I read up on it. Old as hell device, takes a solid minute to process a simple debit from A to Z. It dials the bank through some proprietary system and phone lines. Then I notice we're providing the phone lines and our main competitor, Evil Satellite, is in charge of the proprietary system this thing uses to connect to the associated financial institution. The line looks fine from my end, but the customer called 4 times and filed a complaint. At that point, I know I should pretty much to ignore the fact it's not our fault and coordinate with the people over there. First I make a small mistake and just call their technical support. Evil Satellite drone, welcome to Evil Satellite, may I have your name, date of birth, mother's maiden name and... Bytewave, no, I'm not a customer, I'm from Mildly Evil Cable, I'd like a transfer to your level 3 line. 3-tier support system over there. I just forgot that their first line is barely allowed to breathe if it's not on their script. Evil Satellite drone. That's not in the script, I'll put you on hold to talk to a manager. We might be able to get you level 2. Oh God. Hung up right away. So I call the department in charge of coordination with other telcos, they must have a better number. Bytewave, morning Ivy. Can you get me someone worth talking to over at Evil Satellite? Ivy, sure, I got plenty. Director of Telecommunications Cell? Bytewave. I need to be conveniently left alone in a room with your phone number list laying around. No, I just need their level 3 line or something along those lines. Ivy, I don't have that, but I have their boss number. As for the list, I've heard you have an impressive list yourself. Something about the numbers for building security in every location we have? Kind of want that, I'm totally trading. I do keep the list of all building security numbers, and many others, in a database I have on the Shadow server. It was previously featured in a Shadow IT tale, but I wrote so many tales that it's difficult to remember in which by now. No idea where and how she heard about it, but the next day, I went over and traded. She handed me hers in an actual brown envelope, totally cliché. I had a thumb drive for her. As for the matter at hand, after calling the number she gave me, within a minute I had a reasonably decent tech on the line. Bytewave, yes, exactly. They filed a complaint with us thinking our lines are faulty, but my tools suggest it's all green. Sending you screenshots of relevant evidence. So I'm thinking it's your proprietary system we need to look at. Evil Satellite Tech, well. Look at that, they filed a complaint with us too a week ago. Bytewave, oh, so you already tested it on your end? Evil Satellite Tech, nah, bottom of the pile stuff. Checking now. Why am I not even remotely surprised? If it was a big convenience store chain they'd be all over it, but they prioritize stuff based on who is asking rather than what the problem is. And they took many other pages out of Verizon's playbook. Evil Satellite Tech, our link appears to be working fine. Sending you screenshots too as a courtesy. The ticket said the Debit device itself was checked. Our stuff is fine, theirs is too. What the hell? Bytewave, okay, that's odd. Apparently their device was tested, so I thought if it wasn't us it'd be you. Joint service call? Evil Satellite Tech, whoa there, this isn't Parliament Hill calling. Send your contractor. If that doesn't work, send a real tech, and if and only then you still believe it's our business, call back. Well, if they want to ignore their complaints, their business not worth my time. But there's still nothing that suggests there's anything wrong with our stuff. If I just put in a service call, a smelly subcontractor showing a little butt crack will go over there and leave the second he sees the line is fine. The other half of my job aside from Googling is knowing who to call. In this case, a road tech who once was in basic training with me well over a decade ago. Bytewave, long time no talk. Gary, still liking the field work? Ho ho. Look, I'll tell dispatch to clear you an hour. There's a thing I'd like you to look at yourself. You're not going to be too impressed, it's about a debit machine. I tell him the whole thing, and he calls back late in the afternoon. Gary, hey, fixed your thing. Their device was fine, our line was indeed good, and it wasn't Evil Satellite's thing. As I'm trying to figure out why the device was failing nonetheless. Gary, the RJ11 between their device and the modular connector was defective. All of Bytewave's tales on TFTS.